This video is the kickoff to a series where I'll be covering TSM and G2's remainder of the Season 10 of Pro League. But right now what I want to do is look at the match between TSM and G2 at the Raleigh Major. Since G2 defends first, they get to ban the first attacker, and they've chosen Dokkaebi. Dokkaebi is an uncommon ban, but shows G2's hand quite early. Banning Dokkaebi typically means that you want to roam heavily, because her logic bomb allows attackers to very efficiently determine the location of roamers through sound. She also increases the power level of Valkyrie and Maestro being banned. This is because their universal intel gadgets and cameras can't be hacked or disrupted. Since Valkyrie is so much stronger given the Dokkaebi ban, Pulse arguably is weaker, since his cardiac sensor isn't universally shared with defenders, and he needs to be alive to use his utility, and actively using it, whereas Valkyrie has very passive utility. She also has a better gun. On the flip, the attackers will probably need to bring operators like Lion and Jackal to help roam clear more effectively. And Nomad and Gridlock are always great for maintaining map control once it's earned. TSM goes for a more conventional ban phase, where their attacker ban is Capitao. Capitao is very strong with his Firebolt being shot into meeting or yellow stairs, and uprooting any defender who might play that position. He's also great for smoke plants on lobby or white van in the basement. Defensively, TSM bans Mira, which I actually think is a waste on Consulate because there's so much vertical destruction. And it's quite easy to remove the black mirrors that she places using that verticality. Lastly, G2 bans Echo on defense, and as long as Echo has yokais that can cloak, move, drunk, disorient, stop plant, and the intel's again universally shared between defenders, Echo will always be very strong.
No, teams will very rarely be deemed
We'll skip ahead.
Instant win in that scenario. So a lot of
in the pick phase, G2 on defense does a very interesting, or uses their 6th pick very convincingly. What they're showing is Cade and Bandit at the jump, and any attacking team will read into this as a basement defense, because G2 is bringing 2 Bandit and Cade hard breach denial operators. What happens though is G2 actually 6 picks off the Bandit onto Rook.
To play on just because the attackers will have direct access to it to the front door of the building, but this is start.
More importantly, Thermite is kept by TSM, and this is relevant because Thermite won't most likely use any of his utility on a lobby and piano attack, meaning TSM had the opportunity to bring more fragging power, but didn't. So G2 shows G2 shows Bandit in the pick phase, switches to the Rook, and really they've almost won out just through their operators. Let's talk reinforcements. There's a reinforcement on yellow stairs. There are 3 or 4 reinforcements in public bathroom. They also decided to reinforce the circle hatch, which indicates to me that a player will be playing on circle, and that's to deny entry from main lobby entrance. Not shown on screen, they are going to end up reinforcing 2 walls in meeting and also the hatch in meeting. This is very important, but we'll talk about it later. Lastly, there's a reinforcement on the connector wall on the second floor.
Maestro, Kaid, and Doc. So
let's talk operators. So G2 has brought Doc and Rook, who are considered to be very low utility operators, and indicate that G2 plans on peeking a lot, which makes sense because they have an ACOG.
Had quite a bit of range capability, which does make you think about what exactly we're
Thatcher is a great counter against Mozzie, Cade, and Maestro, and we'll revisit that idea later. Buck, Sophia, and Ash are also great for removing Evil Eyes, but they're more like fragging operators than utility operators.
Entry in some cases might have shifted him away from that over the course of the group stage, though, due to his shaky performance, so we need to see him step up, and as you can see, he's taken on that Ash, so we're still gonna...
Let's back up. Something I find very interesting is the two big boys, Rook and Doc, both start in admin and feign a presence here. I don't actually think that TSM sees this during the prep phase, but I like what G2's doing. They're establishing this phantom presence in admin during the prep phase, removing any drones that might be there, and then actually leaving admin. Any attacking team will think that there is the potential for a spawn peek from admin, and that might delay their entry with very little risk. But actually Rook drops down to main lobby, and later we'll see that Kanto on Doc moves into a position in console.
Or he hasn't even been in the server. Luckily, TSM was able to find a way through that on Villa against MIBR, but they're definitely going to want him for this G2 game. He has to be awake. He has to be getting these frags that they need so badly in order to try and fight their way.
Very quick entry from TSM at 220. Admin is normally, as I mentioned, not contested, so they walk in. I'm not a fan of Zofia or Bolo face checking that angle, but he's not punished and he almost capitalizes on it.
On the top floor, Bolo just trying to knock out one of the members of G2 on the other side of the table, but not going to be able to find him. Still plenty of time, though, only a minute in.
This isn't really relevant to the match, but it's something I think every ranked player should do. This wall, if left soft, should be opened. Zofia even has the capacity to do so with her 3 breach charges and the lifeline. So it's curious that it's something that TSM will consistently forego. We'll look into the reason why this Visa wall is so important to open in just a second.
So plenty of time indeed, as no damage has been done yet to...
So the reason why you'd want to open up that wall is because it establishes this pressure from admin into meeting. And that would most likely prevent any player from playing close to the window to contest the buck that's on this meeting balcony rappel. Again, not relevant because, as we can see here, there is no one actually playing in meeting. Let's talk about G2's defensive setup upstairs. So as I mentioned, they have this connector wall reinforced, 2 walls here, and hatch. That's it. Kanto has a crossfire set up with Pengu into connector, onto long desk with a little movement, and also yellow. But G2 is giving up all of this map control to TSM. And it's up to TSM to take that map control as quickly as possible. Or really, TSM wins and loses based on how quickly they take that map control. One of the more interesting things about G2's defensive setup is the fact that they've decided not to open up any soft destruction here that would otherwise give Pengu, Ozzy, a deeper angle into meeting, which they're giving up for free. I also find it strange that they would decide to reinforce this wall here, since G2 doesn't have a player playing in meeting. it kind of works against them because this is a reinforcement that the attackers can trust.
And might take a little bit long.
Merc, or the Buck, has awesome control over meeting from this balcony window. And where the conflict will come is who is able to contest inside of connector or make a play in connector onto where Doc is situated and where Buck is situated.
Longer as we do still see some drones rotating around on the top.
All right, let's talk about that hatch real quick. So the hatch is cated, but more importantly, it's reinforced. And I think that TSM sees this as an opportunity to execute a lobby entrance plant with very little map control because they don't feel threatened by any vertical pressure. And while I don't disagree with the rationale, Buck still needs to be able to support vertically through his own holes. The problem too is TSM hasn't dedicated any resources towards uprooting Pengu, the Mozzie, or Doc, the Kanto. And so Buck, while he is able to enter into meeting, keeping that control of meeing will be difficult, while also trying to support the plant vertically. So TSM is able to plant with very little resistance until the plant is down, but we'll see very quickly that their plant is unsuccessful because of how little they've actually done to secure a plant with proper map control and support. It's a 2v4 or 2v5 actually, almost seconds after the plant goes down. TSM has to do one of two things. They need to get rid of the Doc in meeting and the Mozzie in private bathroom. They also need to support the plant vertically, and it should really come in that order. TSM, I'd say, coming out especially, not too sloppy at all. I do like the rotation that Sophia makes to help support the plant, but again, there's just not enough map control in order to do what G2 wanted to do, or TSM wanted to do. Unfortunately, not enough at the end of the day. They did have to go for a bit of a able to get the plant. That was a pretty consistent theme. G2 then goes to the basement defense. TSM has brought a Thatcher, which will make short work of Bandit. Obviously, again, our defense won, so that means the initial site is locked for the next 2 rounds until round 4. And G2 has brought 2 heavy roam operators in Vigil and Alibi. So if I'm TSM, I know that I need to clear from 2nd floor down, even though I'm going to be able to open up the wall pretty quickly. Try and throw off offensive lineups of operator choices to where they don't have exactly what they need in order to handle those lobby holds. And well, you saw it firsthand, folks. G2 able to fight their way through a lot. Even though that diffuser did go down, they immediately were able to reclaim and get the bomb diffused, especially off the back of a lot of frags coming out from the defensive side upstairs. Now jumping into round 2, they will be facing the downstairs area. It's a cafeteria and garage area. We're so used to on this map. Now it's been in for quite a long time. At the 220 mark, Thatcher EMPs all of the Bandit charges except one, which is huge. Ash is going to try to dislodge the Bandit by simply peeking yellow door. G2 obviously is set up to help Bandit and does so with an angle here that Maestro's holding on top of Black Car onto yellow door, as well as support from Alibi on yellow stairs to contest the door itself outside. It's a great crossfire that Alibi and Maestro have established. But TSM is able to open up the garage wall because of Thatcher.
Well, Pengu still holding down.
And there we go. The roaming Vigil gets a pick vertically from the second floor onto a player basically outside of garage wall.
Piano as well. Kanto with a very nice shot from upstairs, and it's actually going to be very troubling because Kanto.
What's very problematic is the fact that TSM has three players outside of garage wall, and just Ash trying to get inside the building.
Merc might be walking into a death trap here as well, as he is rotating from the teller's side. As Achieved is working his buck play down.
And at a minute 30, trying to establish map control like Ash is simply too little too late.
UUNO from up top once again will take down Merc.
It's a roaming presence right now starting to cause
Based on the angle that Alibi was holding there, or the position Alibi was holding from there, I'm assuming that she was able to use that vertical control of the map against Ash. Speaking of vertical control, Pengu has opened these soft destruction onto the thermite breach from Piano and is able to effectively deny any attacker from walking through the exothermic breach of garage wall.
Versus Goga. We see another kill picked up as well here. Quite an exchange as we'll take a quick look there at UUNO's kill from a few seconds ago, but ultimately Kanto and UUNO, that roaming presence is
what TSM needs to do is they need to establish map control on top of opening up the horizontal pressure of garage wall. Being able to open up garage wall so quickly is great. It's actually really impressive, but that can't be the plan, the only plan.
On a lot of the times, it's only them spread out across a small. Get those bandit batteries off. Instead, they make them try and fight their way in, and they already have so many angles set up. It's more or less a meat grinder than it is an actual building.
And we saw that going up until the very end. The position end when his team forced the issue and attempted to.
So G2 elects to use their second floor as their tertiary site.
We go into the second round or third round of the.
The most interesting aspect, because outside of it, G2 does a pretty standard reinforcement setup, is they're going to dedicate 2 reinforcements here and I believe 1 here, which is an indicator that there will be a heavy C4 roam underneath, supported by those reinforcements. And G2 is also bringing those C4 operators in Mute and Valkyrie.
They win this one, they can go right back to the first point as those initial sites they won will be.
TSM makes a great adjustment in bringing Habana, since really you're not going to thermite anything on the second floor, not safely at least.
We are still in the quarterfinals, and they come out swinging like this.
And also Valkyrie to counteract the and also IQ to counteract the Valkyrie.
But to see them so dominant already coming out on Consulate, especially when it's TSM's pick, it's definitely something that is a focal point right now.
It's not a good sign when TSM are having problems just getting into.
Despite those 2 changes, the most influential operator in this round is actually going to be the Thatcher. I want to highlight something real quick. In this lower panel, we're actually going to see that Thatcher has thrown a EMP at the window in order to deny any pest or mute jammers. It's not extremely relevant, but I thought it was a really cool thing to do from TSM.
Again, though, as is normal for this upstairs site, admin and that right side of the map is going to be the focus here for TSM on the attack, as they've got players rappelling up the windows now.
220 entry into admin. Again, very quick from TSM. Volo is gonna breach this default cam, which is a bit of a waste of utility. I'm a much bigger fan of the opening of the admin hatch, so that you make any defender with C4 think twice about throwing a C4 from Visa onto admin.
They'll make sure that you know that they are roaming. As far as we know from Kanto already this game, the man has been making himself known from outside, getting those spawn kills per se.
This is where Thatcher is super influential. So what happens is the EMP detonates, and we actually see the ADS go be removed. And because of that EMP, and because the ADS is gone, Buck is able to throw a grenade without it being caught.
To try and push you to your limit outside and force you to make this clear. Otherwise, you're
Smoke is predictably behind the deployable shield. So what does Buck do? Well, he'll cook a grenade behind someone who might be playing there and down the smoke.
It is going to finish off Pengu and take him down, with Achieved striking the final blow to finish things off. But yeah, we have to remember, again, G2 hasn't really played this map publicly.
I'm not a huge fan of the fact that Buck leaves this window when I think TSM could actually walk into leading at this point. But what they decided to do is rotate Buck onto console window. And because he's on a solo mission, he'll actually get run out on by Goga.
Goga throws himself from a window and takes down Achieved as they get closer to equalizing. It appears that he will also be able to maintain his life as he rotates back in. Diffuser now going down.
Luckily, the plan the whole time was to plant very quickly, and that's just what Pojo on Habana does. Poor use of the Habana from TSM. They could have definitely helped dislodge the smoke easier by opening up the meeting wall from copy room. Speaking of copy room, this angle that I believe Thatcher is holding onto Long Desk is part of TSM's plant always, and will be relevant again against Fabian again later. But what happens here is Fabian knows they're planting, and I'm assuming that the Evil Eye isn't set up to deny the plant, so Fabian needs to peek into the room in order to deny the plant. What Fabian really needs to do, though, is kill anyone who's covering plant, because the planter is not going to fire back at him, unlike the player at the end of copy.
As Fabian rotates in, but Merc will be able to clean him up. Diffuser will get confirmed, and Kanto doesn't really seem to have a will.
And then it's over.
This right now. Rotation in from Poj with some quick shots as Kanto can't win it out, and TSM with their very first
so,
round is
G2 made a fatal mistake, which was not trusting the plant denial they brought in the Evil Eyes, the C4.
A long way to go, though.
And really, it was theirs to lose because they were up 5-3. TSM, meanwhile, has a very low map control attack strategy that they are able to very effectively execute, all because of the Thatcher.
Set up on the projector area. You put two reinforcements behind where Pengu corner with a lot of damage out that medium. So that they
Let's capture that Goga run out real quick. So this is the Buck, who's on that solo mission on the console window. And because Mute runs out on Buck, he needs to rotate back into the building, and Thatcher is there since Mute's detected outside. Alright, we're back to piano and lobby. G2 brings the same operators without flashing the bandit. Better is that TSM is bringing Habana and Jackal instead of Thermite, and I believe IQ is who they chose the first time. No, it was Ash.
You can't do that. We are going to be going back to lobby, though, as TSM has
so the problem I have with TSM bringing Jackal is the first time that G2 played this site, they played very statically and held long angles. Jackal will really only be able to pick up any footsteps that were created during the prep phase. I think there is better choices in that case, such as Lion, if realm clearing is a priority.
Had a pretty hit or miss record, so still putting him in these very important roles. There's a bit of a risk here for TSM. Obviously, again, though, that's a bit bold to assume that they would be willing to swap roles in the middle of the tournament. So they'll have to keep him on that for now.
Last time TSM was punished because they tried to plant on lobby without establishing any vertical control. This time, TSM is going to be punished because they tried to push bottom up. And it's a bit disheartening to see this because it's always best practice to attack from top down, where perspective is in your favor, looking from above onto below.
I really like what TSM is
Anytime a pro sees a drone, they should always expect an attacker to follow that drone.
doing right now. They're clearing the downstairs because Nitro
And that's why Fabian on the Maestro knows that Jackal's been coming up. Because Jackal is crouch walking up spiral stairs, he moves slowly. So Maestro is able to get an easy pick since he sees the shoulder first. And also perspective is just working in Fabian's favor here.
Anyone that's attempting to plant inside of the corner.
The bigger mistake is the fact that Zofia, or Bolo, decides to follow up the initial kill by pushing the exact same angle and just using a concussion grenade. Now, good use of utility, bad utility. Concussions only disorient and stop movement. Really stop movement. So Fabian is able to hold the same angle and pre-fire Zofia. At that point, you need to cut your losses, you need to regroup, and maybe you can do the same thing with support from Buck, who has grenades, without having to push your body through the same angle. This round is lost in the first 2 minutes, and it's really because of the attacking strategy of TSM.
How this is going to conclude. Russell's a record team 3
on every single
amount of windows. You can't possibly take the time to check every single one. You can check the routine ones, you can check the one from connector upstairs.
Once again, a very similar setup from G2 when it comes to defending their basement defense. The swap is Jaeger for Alibi.
You just have to play Russian roulette with windows and really hope that you don't get shot in your face.
TSM has decided not to bring Thatcher, and instead is bringing Nomad and Jackal. This is huge for TSM because they're going to win and lose based on how easily they can get rid of Bandit and his Bandit charges vertically.
We've been absolutely used to, where they will make you battle for every ounce of map control you could
Bio on the Nomad.
A safe haven though, and that's exactly what we're seeing once again.
Also,
completely empty, but once you work your way to the west a little bit, you will start seeing Kanto.
We'll let it play out.
Pop up. As of right now, it seems the main focus of Merc will be Kanto.
Early scan from Jackal onto the Vigil, which is great because Vigil is difficult to spot.
As you can see, G2 always has
with drones.
Else laying out in the cut, just waiting for.
So here's the big mistake: is the Nomad who's being played by Bio and who was previously Thatcher dies instantly. And to my knowledge, Nomad dies without having used any utility.
For someone to peek in UUNO from the bottom of
so
will take down
TSM isn't able to remove the Bandit charges safely, and also loses the utility that they brought as a substitute. I love this vertical pressure that Buck, or Achieved, is creating, but it's coming way too late.
Are finding important players very early on in the round. The Nomad has the capability,
and it actually would have stopped Jaeger from walking up, or made Jaeger at least think twice about moving up Spiral Staircase.
That he's able to put into a corner or somewhere on the map. Defenders are given a slight audio cue that it's there, but oftentimes in a rush situation will not notice it. And if they get hit by it, they're stunned onto the ground, giving a chance for the attackers to respond and more than likely kill them if they're close enough.
G2's defense right now, especially with the drone game that they've been able to perform, they allow.
Vigil gets a cheeky pick onto Pojo Man outside.
You to get distracted by
And what I'm really happy with is how Kanto handles the potential for the refrag. What he does is he runs away. And that's really what you want from your roamers. They don't need to win gunfights. They just need to waste time. More importantly, the operator that Kanto killed is the Thermite. At this point, TSM has lost. It's very difficult to do anything when the garage wall is still reinforced and the defenders aren't feeling any horizontal pressure from outside.
We have seen G2 retreat all 5 of their players.
Because the garage wall is still reinforced, UUNO on Jaeger is able to play this position on Black Car and even closer to Yellow Stairs. And he'll actually net a 3K playing this very similar spot. Again, it's because the Thatcher wasn't brought, a wall wasn't opened early, and Thermite dies outside, although that is probably the least point to stress. I don't understand why Pengu would peek that vertically, because you've got a large man advantage, and really all you need to do is play time. As a smoke, your job is to waste time on site, not to net a kill, especially with a 5-2 man advantage. And Jaeger gets that 3K I talked about. Actually, he gets a 4K on the round, but a 3K net one position.
So it's hard to bargain that they can even come back from the round.
I really feel like they just need to maintain focus.
Alright, last defensive round.
Instead of trying to go for the
We're upstairs again. This is the only site that TSM has won. We're seeing the same setup from G2 with the same reinforcements downstairs.
And just progressively move forward instead of having your eyes on the prize, but not having the list in order to achieve what you want to get. Admin. All right, now we're progressing towards Spiral. We have Spiral control. What can we do with Spiral control? Okay,
it's worth highlighting.
Eyes on the prize, but not having the
Mute down here is placing a jammer on Yellow Stairs. That just delays the entry. But it's kind of a waste because TSM has attacked, or in the previous round, TSM attacked through meeting balcony.
Alright, now we're progressing towards Spiral. We have Spiral control. What can we do with Spiral control? Okay, we can pressure benches as well as lobby. If we get a pick lobby, then maybe we try to plant lobby or something along those lines. But
so TSM brings Thatcher back, which is obviously the right call, given how important Thatcher was on the first attack of Consulate.
Flex their way around G2 a little bit here, but unfortunately none of that has been working to such a large degree. Looking at the stats there too for a second, we have the scoreboard up, you can see it's a very, very one-sided match right now with most of G2.
Sophia is in, opens up admin hatch.
Being up in the upper like 5 to 10 range right now for some of their stars. The big highlight here
this is a great routine, minus maybe using the breaching charge on the default cam. I actually don't understand why Bolo decides not to open up that Visa wall, because I would like to see that opened. What I think is even more interesting is that Bolo thinks it's more important to open up this pressure vertically onto Visa Stairs. And I understand the rationale. G2 is bringing 2 operators of C4 and Valkyrie and Mute, so you want a way to detect anyone who might be roaming from underneath.
Again, Merc does, he showed up every few rounds here, but again, he's not finding anywhere close to that impact in some of the tournaments we've been seeing in the online.
You know what Sophia could have done? Is not used a breaching charge on a default cam and shot it out, because you know that cam's always there. And instead opened up that Visa wall.
Such as USN and even stuff like Pro League.
Same attack. Let's look at this very quickly. We have Sophia and Thatcher, who ultimately want to get into this position in order to deny anyone playing long desk. We have Buck, who ultimately just wants to control all of meeting. And that's really all that TSM needs for their attack. They're very vulnerable to anyone who's playing underneath, and that's my recommendation to G2, is to bring C4. And get ready to prevent the plant.
Tight knit, as you see. That's the one thing that you always have to give G2 credit on. They always have somebody.
To TSM's credit, Pojaman or the Habana is watching lobby.
They have in lobby. They have UUNO downstairs, as well as they have Kanto that's playing inside a piano. So one taps will follow suit, and actually Kanto and Goga both go.
It's a 3v5 in favor of G2 very early. It's insane that Pengu decides to stick that grenade.
Still do a decent amount of damage to Pengu, but he's in full control. Doesn't even panic under that situation. Knows the nade's going to roll too far, so he stays alive in position on the site right now. Biologic finally picks up another trade in TSM's favor and is going to be able to knock out the Mute and Goga, but a small gesture at this point, considering that his team has also lost 2 players.
TSM still trying to find a foothold on this site. They've only been able to do
so Bolo is in position to support plant. They've just killed Pengu, who was the only player really holding and meeting. TSM is ready to execute.
Actually might come up with a kill here, a quick flick, but he's going to be met with actually dual pressure as the Chief pressures the front door, takes down UUNO, and all of a sudden they have that pressure relieved from downstairs.
Remember this?
Now, Fabian, Kanto both on site.
Fabian is trying to contest the player on the meeting balcony window. But what he needs to expect is a player holding from copy realm. And that's exactly where Bolo is.
Down from the flag hallway as Bolo finds his first kill. Kanto can stop diffuser though, as you see.
Suddenly it's a 1v3.
Does a little bit of damage. Pre-fires finds Bolo, has a pistol, isn't able to win out against
and G2 loses.
TSM with their second round. They are at this point
Alright, TSM defends for the first time. Let's talk operators. Basement defense. The big things that I see are G2 is really prioritizing hard breach, which on Consulate I'm not terribly, I think is actually not a terrible choice. Or I should say it more convincingly, I think is a good choice. Given you don't really know what site they're going to go at the start, and they're showing you the bandit. So I'm quite fond of G2's lineup. I don't think that Jackal is very strong on Consulate, but G2 makes it work. IQ is to counter, well, really nothing here, so it feels a bit of a waste. And UUNO on the sledge is really the only counter to Maestro's Evil Eyes and any other utility, such as shields. There's no Thatcher, so you need to work vertically in order to remove the bandit charges, and bandit suddenly becomes very powerful. Mozzie is always good because he denies intel, and maybe that's why you have the Jackal, just to elicit that intel.
Overall, I know we don't have
the casters don't make a note of this, but UUNO has the shotgun as his primary weapon on sledge instead of the assault rifle. I don't know why,
you can kind of understand the pick from TSM here, but it seems like they might have fallen,
but it's actually relevant later.
Due to what Zoronic was saying.
Isn't it always a trap though? It's always a trap.
Seems to be.
They're always saving strats.
TSM had some, again, just to go back to it, TSM did have some really good results back at the minor at DreamHack Valencia, which may have been what they used to justify now bringing this back into the fold once again for this land. Unfortunately, as they were talking about on the desk, it seems G2 was also very much...
I have to point out, but Kanto sees the default cam in Visa and decides not to take it out with his IQ scanner.
Strikes first here on the opening round of it as they start to clear out the second.
It won't be impactful on this round, but it's just kind of a mystery why you wouldn't move it.
Chief getting away scot-free, but not from lack of bullets, as we will have yet another kill.
Alright, so why does Vigil die? The reason is because TSM isn't dedicating any help for the Vigil roam. When we watched G2 play, they always had a dual roam. But TSM puts Vigil on an island, that's Merc, and just expects him to frag out. The thing is, there was IQ, Jackal, and also IQ, Jackal in admin, which is already a pinch, as well as a Habana on console window repel. So Vigil should not win any gunfight.
Off the board, so can't be tracking people's footsteps any longer. UUNO downstairs inside of Tellers, trying to force his way downstairs, but soon finds out the hatch has been sealed.
Time continuing to tick lower here. G2 definitely stretching it a little bit more than we saw from TSM. Good amount of patience showing up from G2 as they try to figure out how exactly to get past this defensive setup. Now working on the bathroom.
Here's another pinch that G2 is setting up. We have Habana and Piano. Actually, we need to move forward a little bit.
Taking a load of damage here. Thankfully, it's not all that much.
We have Habana and Piano, and then we have Sledge and Lobby. And they've got this great pinch onto Bandit, who is in public bathroom. There's actually just a moment where Bandit can make one heck of a play by pushing the Habana, because Sledge has turned his attention onto someone in Spiral. But again, G2 set up this crossfire, even if it's a little shallow given the positioning of IQ.
UUNO is going for the pinch, and they seem to be very well aware of the
anyway, Pengu simply wins the gunfight against Bolo. What I think is very strange is that Pengu on Habana uses none of his X-Carrows his entire round. And G2, or at least UUNO, showed that he wanted to open up hatches earlier in Visa. This will also be extremely relevant later in the round. Pengu could have opened up public bathroom hatch and also main lobby hatch and established a ton of control or pressure onto garage as well as cafeteria.
Diffuser in the hands of Goga as well.
A drone just went through the entire basement too. G2 got plenty of info off of that. They know perfect.
And here we go. So Mozzie is playing on a deployable shield.
A drone just went through the entire basement too. G2 got plenty of it.
And is able to get this awesome shot onto the Thermite or Goga simply because there's no reason that Mozzie should feel uncomfortable other than the horizontal pressure that Pengu is establishing. Pengu doesn't hit his shots.
Info off of that. They know perfect position.
Mozzie does.
Three different players achieved, though. Will still pick off Goga on the initial push.
There is a hatch right above, or not right above, but very close to where the Mozzie's trying to play. It's actually right around here. And I think the angle's deep enough that it would have been able to pressure Mozzie. So if Pengu on the Habana opens up the hatch in public bathroom, this probably doesn't go so poorly. The other thing too is Sledge, without a assault rifle, is going to have a very difficult time to challenge the Mozzie, given the SMG-11. And Mozzie wins.
Kanto trades him out, but it doesn't matter. We'll see Bolo or Biologic pick up the final kill, and TSM will pick up their first defensive round.
Lastly, the way that G2 tries to recover the round is they have Pengu, Habana, who is already at 25 HP, plant after Thermite dies. Who really needs to be planting is Sledge because he has higher life and won't immediately die to a gas canister like Pengu does.
They may have been the ones that they were not able to detect previously. Diffuser attempting to go down, but it's stopped by the...
How long... Battled back... would be Wednesday, yesterday was Thursday.
That's a great shot of what I'm referring to with that vertical pressure they could have established. So this hatch is open, and Mozzie most likely can't play behind this deployable shield. Also, Sledge had a grenade and should have used it on the deployable shield that Mozzie's playing behind. So Mozzie can't do exactly what he does.
It would be Wednesday, yesterday was Thursday, as we just count the week, the days on our hands, right? That's sad. I'm sorry for you. That TSM kind of a very solid defensive half.
This is a big part of this map right now as well, thanks to our stats department for this. TSM has struggled to win their opening duels, currently at a 1 in a few.
You at least have to feel good. I mean, this is a lot closer score of the line than I'm going to guess the rest of it.
All right. G2 makes a couple of adjustments here. So they've brought a very powerful combo in Lion and Jackal. The two of them paired together do the following. Jackal scans a player and makes players run away, whereas Jackal makes you stand still. Together, you simply have no option but to pre-fire everything if you want to win the engagement. And this is great for pinching players. Habana is the only hard breacher, which makes a lot of sense because if it's going to be any other site other than Garage, Habana is able to simply open up more and also open things up safer. IQ is being brought, but there's really no reason to, because there's no Valkyrie or operators that IQ can detect very easily. You could argue Mozzie's Pest, but most people aren't going to dedicate an IQ to remove one Mozzie Pest. And we still have the outstanding issue where UUNO on Sledge is the only operator capable of removing the Evil Eyes. But ultimately, I think that G2 has a more convincing attacking operator lineup.
G2 now actually adopting Lions.
Let's look at reinforcements. TSM is reinforcing this wall on private bathroom. These two walls in private bathroom, which we'll talk about in just a second. All wall on yellow stairs. Connector wall. A second connector wall. 2 in meeting. 1 in copy. And lastly on visa. Because TSM reinforces these two walls here in private bathroom, the soft destruction they've opened up in meeting wall actually requires the defender to peek quite aggressively towards long desk. You begin to get the angle from where from somewhere outside of private bathroom. I suppose this should be drawn the opposite way. And this will actually be extremely relevant. These two reinforcements on private bathroom come to hurt TSM, especially since their purpose is really to stop anyone on this private bathroom rappel from gaining a lot of power from that position, which G2 never does.
5 times, and after it's over, no more spamming marks, but it makes it
the other reinforcements are like very standard.
To be able to shoot you through the wall or gain free information, especially if they've already droned you out and they pop one of those EU1Ds, it's extremely ezy to lock you down.
So because Capital's banned, you need to bring nades in order to dislodge any player in meeting. And because there's no Thatcher, and because G2 didn't use flashbangs to remove the ADSs, the first grenade is caught.
All about minor inconveniences like EE1Ds and hopping out of windows into Pengu's bullets.
With a little more coordination, the Lion and the grenade might have been able to not kill, but it doesn't happen.
The most important
meeting is cleared out, and that's what's most important.
Across the entire map, they're taking their time and they're really just picking TSM apart one by one. Bio finally fights.
Let's talk about Lion real quickly. I really like how G2 uses Lion, and that they use him for 2 means, in this run at least. Either to pinch players, or to prevent refrags. Alright. Remember that reinforcement we talked about on private bathroom? This is where it's relevant. This soft destruction that the IQ is peeking through was created by TSM. And IQ has this awesome long angle onto anyone that would peek out or from around private bathroom. Bolo on the dock needs to contest this entry. Who wins the engagement? Well, that's IQ.
Been downed, and Bolo will soon be shut down as well. It's all left up to Merc to try and battle back.
I don't understand why Bio on the Maestro didn't decide to move closer towards Illador. The round's lost, but if he moves closer to Illador, Mozzie maybe has a chance to revive him.
A G2 round as Fabian will put a cap on that. We call him against someone that's extremely aggressive and likes to try and fight back. Patience can definitely be a virtue, and it can help you out quite a bit.
So into our next round we go. It is looking like TSM are going to attempt to hold the upstairs site once again. As you'll see, the operator lineup is also going to remain quite similar, if not exactly the same as what we had in the previous.
This time around,
to the roaming potential
G2 has decided to bring Nomad instead of Jackal.
Disrupt some of the roam or drone presence that we've been seeing from these guys and prevent them from being able to.
As I've said before, I don't think Jackal's very strong on Consulate. So, and I think Nomad's very strong on Consulate. So I like the adjustment.
Defensive side, not something that the defenders often get, and only have access to that.
I also don't know if Fabian used his utility last round.
Well, so far
Furthermore, I have no idea if Pengu used any of his utility on Habana.
Operator to the Rainbow Six lineup, and he's actually fantastic.
And if he didn't, that'd be the second time that Pengu on a hard breach operator didn't use the utility the operator is supposed to use.
Two SMGs that are really whatever the flavor of the month is. It can either be the Roni or you can grab the Commando. A lot of people allocating to that Roni with the extended barrel, but the thing that definitely shines through for Mozzie is his pests, which are able to steal drones from the offense, which not only makes it to where you can use those drones for yourself, but definitely not going to help them out on this round, is mostly, well, especially for Merc's sake, he's already dead. Mozzie can no longer control those drones, but his pest can still possibly...
At 2 minutes to lose 2 defenders is quite a blow. Yes, you took out the grenades from Sledge, but you've also lost 2 pieces of plant denial in the Maestro with his Evil Eyes, and Mozzie with the C4. I think what's sadder is the fact that TSM loses to these 2 operators by trying to contest the entry of G2. And an attacking team that is still outside on Rappel simply cannot execute a plan. So there's just no reason to lose players that early.
With plenty of time remaining now in a 4 versus 3, and with the loss of UUNO, they are still in good hands right now. Pengu moving in to try and start harassing a little bit towards the upstairs windows.
G2 shifts into a yellow take.
That's what we've grown to notice by quite a few professional players, the upside down rappel.
With support from Yellow Stair Skylight and 2 on this console window rappel. They have Nomad set up, or air jab set up, so that no one can run out of piano window. And I would assume there's also one on Yellow Stairs. Pengu gets this great kill on the Doc who's playing a meeting, and once he's killed the player in meeting, they've really unlocked the key into getting into meeting.
A quick execution of Bolo, still going for 2.
Again, Lion immediately hits that button to prevent any refrags.
He's poised over towards yellow, but only 2 remaining members for TSM. It's achieved as well as Pojo Man to try and bring this back from the depths.
This is a curious move from the Smoke, or Pojo Man. He decides to run out to challenge anyone who might be on the yellow rappel. There isn't anyone. With a minute left and 3 gas canisters, you can actually dictate the pace of the execute quite well, down to at least 15 seconds. And I just don't think that Smoke is the operator who needs to take this risk.
Outside, but it only ends up giving him away. Fabian catches the outside.
1v4, G2 won't miss this.
Spiral stairs
on rotation, on a quick
So, as I've mentioned before, typically teams give up admin. Here, TSM isn't. They're trying to contest the entry for some reason, and it gets punished.
They'll hop anything. They're always there to try and thwart
twice.
Plans. And for right now, TSM just...
It's a big mistake.
Stage, along with a lot of tournaments preceding this event, was so prevalent.
We're back to a defense downstairs, and last time TSM was able to win it.
In this case, they need to find a new frontier with which to work some control of the early round into their favor. At the moment, it may not come on this
G2, for whatever reason, refuses to bring Thatcher, and instead moves to Ash, Jackal, Buck, Thermite, IQ.
That's a very tall order to ask. We've never seen G2 absolutely stumped by
IQ is very powerful given TSM's operators, who are Mozzie, Valkyrie, most importantly Valkyrie, Bandit, and Vigil.
G2. That's it. So
but there's no reason not to bring the Thatcher when Thatcher effectively allows you to open up garage wall at the 220 mark, sometimes earlier, and create tons of vertical or horizontal pressure without having established any vertical pressure or map control. This is one of the prettiest runouts. We'll revisit that later. But really, it's like TSM wins the round with that run out.
Goga pops open the hatch into Archon.
Thermite using his exothermic charge on Visa hatch is relevant because, as I mentioned before, Thatcher was not brought by G2. And therefore the team wasn't able to open up garage wall. Sometimes you can get away with actually going for your default white plant with very little vertical control, as long as the defense doesn't have that vertical control and it isn't using that vertical pressure against you.
And hopefully allows for an easier push.
So G2 needs to go with an alt plan.
His jammer ran out there right at the end, so he's going to be able to push.
But really, the round is lost. Let's just skip to that awesome run out.
Keep someone. Stoke said this is the last hope for North America in this tournament. We started out the day with 2 teams.
Oh, that is
Here's the run out. Visa stairs, and they are lined up.
All right. TSM is now going to lobby and piano.
In their own opening half on defense here. So, very exposed site. Attackers have direct access to it from the front door of the building.
They have a more standard defensive hold than G2.
Problems from rooms directly above it, or in some cases even below it. So, the attacking team still needs to clear out the other 2 floors as well, or risk being picked off in a haphazard.
Where they've opened up the meeting hatch and also the cabinet hatch.
So adjustment in
for more vertical pressure down onto attackers who might want to plant on lobby.
Different from what we saw from G2, where they adopted 4 of those things, and so good at range, as we know all too well inside of the game.
This prep phase drone from Thatcher is probably what enables the plant to come down so quickly. And it's just a great display of a team that knows how to use that resource in the time in the first 45 seconds.
Which we've known him to play for a very long time. And then we have Merc on the Valkyrie. You might be wondering why I'm highlighting
despite the hatches being open and that vertical pressure existing from TSM, G2 is going to be able to execute plant with very little map control, and I think it's all because of that camera and knowing that there's really no one holding in piano.
The palm tree even helping out G2.
Hug the earth, love the earth. The earth will reward you back, I suppose. And we will see G2
also, I just don't think that TSM used the vertical pressure that they created. You can see here, there's no one playing in meeting, and there is no one playing in console. So they've opened up the hatches, and they're not playing vertically. They're actually giving vertical pressure to G2 for the taking.
Since he was already downed. They'll be able to wrap around. They'll still have that hard breach potential, though, and that's the most important part of
the positioning of Valkyrie is significant here. So in just a second, Valkyrie will move into the spot right here, I believe. But Thatcher is going to hold an angle for a long time to stop Valkyrie from moving, and will actually net a kill.
Be able to wrap around. They'll still have that hard breach potential, though, and that's the most important part of keeping him alive. Is now they still the capability to knock down any hard balls. On this site, it's not absolutely necessary to need a hard breacher to successfully attack, but it certainly helps. Fabian will instead get the first kill on the window swing, and they'll also pop off their first EE1D charge as the rest of them move in and try to take quick control. In fact,
and the plant goes down.
Already starting the plant. Where's the defensive setup from TSM? It's been forced back. Kanto has been able to pick achieved in the lobby. Bio, yes, will trade onto UUNO, but again, a small jet. gesture, another EE1D charge will also hold off any quick attempts to retake, but it's not working. Merc is able to take
TSM
Pengu, and we're tied up
opened
3 versus 3.
vertical pressure. Didn't use the vertical pressure. And because the vertical pressure existed, I think it's more difficult to send sight safely. TSM needs to reevaluate their defensive setup on this lobby and Kano defense. Meanwhile, G2 could probably have used the vertical pressure that TSM gave them.
And more than likely a victory. Kanto from all the way outside his IQ will bring G2 once.
That's the video. I am always open to criticism and feedback. Please stay tuned for more VOD analysis over G2 and TSM through the remainder of the Season 10 Pro League. Take care.